Oh my God! All right, I admitted I couldn't resist. It's Wednesday night, July 27th, about 11:30 in the evening. It's a beautiful night here on Lake Champlain. This is what I've been talking about. This half-assed custody order, half-assed temporary custody order issued by Bruno with the complete and utter compliance, capitulation, participation, obvious whitewash, illegal activities, fruits of the conspiracy, you name it. This is Cheryl Maxwell and Keith Bruno's attempt to once again stick it up my ass and shove this temporary custody order for my children through without any regard for New York state law or my rights as a parent or my children's rights. It's ridiculous. I saw it coming from a mile away. I knew it was going on. So I'm going to read through it today. Now, tomorrow, July 28th at 1 p.m., there's going to be a reconvening of this 25 to 30 people, this group of assholes that are trying to get custody of my children. And there's a lot of different levels to this. One of the things they're trying to do is to keep the clock going. Cheryl Lynn Ormsby, who they give custody to, is Ricky Carnahan's biological mother. She's from here. She's married to some piece of shit named Scruffy, who is Ricky Carnahan's father. And they come from a long line of pieces of shit, these people. And somehow they've managed to, worm their way into my daughter's lives because they found, Kristen, who has absolutely been destroyed by these people. Anyway, here's what the Guardian, mind you, Guardian ad nauseum or Guardian ad lackey, Cheryl Maxwell comes up with. Well, what a fucking travesty this place is, and I'm recording this knowing full well that all of this shit is going to be undone in Albany unless this fix goes way beyond what I can even imagine and have anticipated so far. So this says that the family court in the state of New York, county of Clinton, in the matter of a custody and visitation proceeding. Now, this is a temporary custody order that was drafted by Cheryl Maxwell. Like I said, now in this last proceeding on June 17th, when all these same assholes were present, there were some assholes who were obviously missing, and those assholes were the ones from Child Protective Services, who I have no idea why their name is Child Protective Services. These people perform no useful function that I've been able to determine. I've sent them out there to investigate Kristen on numerous occasions, and they've come back and just whitewashed the whole thing, which is why we find ourselves where we do today, and my children are being subjected to the same sorts of abuse and neglect and who knows what at this point. I mean, these people are so corrupt. They just want to keep me from talking to my children because they're afraid of what I might figure out. Ricky Carnahan did 5 years upstate for beating the shit out of women, specifically one in Schuyler Falls. He's got a long rap sheet, and all around it is domestic violence, and this little prick likes to pick on women. So, I mean, this guy's an absolute coward. The saddest thing is that Ricky Carnahan is the man who my daughters, Elizabeth, Victoria, and Aurelia, have been calling daddy, since this is who Kristen hooked up with, whatever it was, 9 years ago or something, and they have a fourth daughter named Brinley. I feel desperately sorry for all of these children for having to deal with this monstrous amount of domestic violence and abuse and neglect. And I mean, I pay a lot of money up here for child support all the time, and they take money from my Social Security disability payment each month. And frankly, every time I see my children, they look like vagabonds. They look like bums. They're beautiful little girls, and nobody's spending any time with them, or nobody's investing in them, and that's obvious. All the money's going towards Kristen's addiction and Ricky's addiction, and it's really disgusting. Kristen is an addict going back to when she was 13 years old and started fucking around with various drugs and shit. I mean, when I met her, she was I can't go through this again. I can't describe all this shit to you. It's going to have to come out in court. This document is what we're talking about. In the matter of a custody and visitation proceeding, Lynn Ormsby Massengill. Now remember, this is written by Cheryl Maxwell. No input from CPS, no input from anybody. This is the shit that goes around in her head and gets adopted by Clinton County because of whatever arrangement they have. These people take her words wholesale, and without any question, this shit would be implemented and probably is going to be implemented further if they have their way. So pay attention. It says that this temporary custody order, there's an appearance, Lynn Ormsby Massengill, having appeared pro se. Now, this asshole just moved up here in May, so she hasn't established residence for 6 months. She hasn't been up here long enough to really do anything legally, except that she has a long history of bullshit going back in Clinton County. And she's no different than any of these other rednecks up here who spread their legs, have kids with 2, 3 different men and 4, 5 different kids. It's all fucked up. It's the same shit that goes on in every other redneck place all over the United States. I mean, come on, man. This is a fucking game that these women play, and they run it with the full knowledge and participation of assholes like Timothy Lawless, Keith Bruno, Alan Cruikshank, Alan Michaud, Deb Whitson, Cheryl, did I say Cheryl Maxwell? Cheryl Maxwell for fucking sure. These people are off the fucking hook. So they've got all these appearances listed. Lynn Ormsby comes up here pro se in May and walks away with the custody of 4 kids. She doesn't even need an attorney to walk into this courtroom and be granted, full custody of 4 little girls with these people without ever spending a dime, without ever putting up with this any kind of bullshit like I've put up with for the last 10 years. So we got Alan Cruikshank having appeared with and for Kristen Carnahan, Weintraub, Esquire, with and for Katie Rock, Travis Dupree, and Kathy Dupree. Richard Cantwell with and for Catherine Dupree regarding an Article 8 petition, and Cheryl Maxwell Plattsburgh for the subject children. What a group of assholes this is. John Maiden, now this is Cheryl Maxwell writing in here, having followed in this court a petition under Article 6 of the Family Court Act on August 23rd, 2021. Last year, a year ago, requesting modification of an existing order of custody of the subject children, to wit, Aurelia Maiden, June 27, 2010, Elizabeth, March 7, 2008, and Victoria Maiden, June 27, 2009. Now, this is when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was asking these charming people of the court for some type of emergency visitation with my children as I was getting to be ready to begin chemotherapy and radiation treatments. And I would really have appreciated being able to see my daughters before I, ended up losing 50 pounds and being almost completely incapacitated by Thanksgiving. But no, Bruno didn't see it as an emergency. He didn't see any reason to work with me at all. Maxwell wouldn't give me any type of telephone contact and wouldn't allow me to contact my children all through my cancer treatment, diagnosis, whether or not I was going to live or die, whether or not I was going to have esophageal cancer surgery in January of 2022. These people didn't care. They have no regard for me or my children's relationship to their biological father. They were just trying to fuck me over again and hoping that I died along the way. So let's be real. So Kristen Carnahan, having filed in this court a petition under Article 6, now this is all just Maxwell, whitewashing everything. She's putting this all in a neat little format so this other asshole, Bruno, can come along and just sweep it all away, and we're going to give custody of 4 girls to Lynn Ormsby, Massengill, douchebag, Davis, Carnahan, whatever the hell her name is. She has no verifiable source of income that I can find. She's married to some guy named Johnny Massengill, who she just married a year ago. They live down in Alabama. They don't have a residence in New York State whatsoever. And I don't know who this guy is. I mean, remember when they gave, full custody and everything to Kristen, they gave unfettered access to Ricky Carnahan, this violent convicted felon with a history of beating the shit out of women, unfettered access to my daughters. Now they're going to double down again. We haven't demonstrated any financial ability to support these children. I have no idea who the hell's in this household, and nobody seems to care. We're subjecting my 3 pubescent and prepubescent daughters to God knows what with these assholes. And Time Magazine and every other recognized place will tell you that just about the most dangerous place in the world for a young girl is to be in a household with a man who is not her biological father. And this is what these people are doing to my daughters. Now, this is after Maxwell just whatever they signed off on. My daughters, even after all of this trauma that was perpetrated on them back in May, and for God knows how long this has been going on, because Kristen took them out of school, I don't know, last year or something. So they've been through hell. But Maxwell thought it was fine for four traumatized children, including their little sister. I'm sorry, I don't mean to exclude Brinley. Maxwell thought it was fine to throw all four of them on a fucking plane and take them to Alabama. Again, just to make sure that they're going to be separate from me, to make sure that I'm not going to have any access to them, and to set me up for further frustration and to try to, trigger me into doing something stupid. And like I said, I learned that lesson a couple years ago when I watched what they did to my friend Justin Herzog, an attorney here in Plattsburgh, who served well. He had his own demons, like a lot of other people do. But these people, these same assholes, Bruno, Lawless, whoever else got involved, they drove my friend to commit suicide. And it's absolutely disgusting that nobody ever followed up on it. Nobody ever investigated the reasons why. It was just swept under the rug by these same powerful pricks. So John E. Maiden, having filed this petition again on November 3rd, 2021, requesting modification of an existing order of custody in the subject children, I didn't meet some half-ass threshold that Maxwell keeps holding out here. Remember, that existing custody order was signed by me on June 8th, 2017. After coming up here in 2016, I had life-saving brain surgery, reconstructive jaw surgery, a stage 2 knee replacement, and sports hernia surgery. So when I moved up here in April of 2017, I signed up for parenting classes at Family Connections. I managed to get, a custody and visitation order, in place, which I was absolutely thrilled with. I was putting my best foot forward and acting in good faith with this court, and, trying to get to see my little girls. But Lawless stuck it up my ass like he always does. I mean, this motherfucker, when I came up here in January of 2014, saying the same things about federal and New York State income tax fraud, welfare fraud, insurance fraud, breach of fiduciary trust, forgery, assault and battery. Lawless swept it all under the rug then in January of 2014 and threw me in jail. Then he threw me in jail again in April of 2017 when I came up here, after those surgeries that I just described. This motherfucker has been out to get me for 10 years. Make no mistake about it. All we've done is change seats. We put Bruno in Lawless's chair, and Lawless has moved down the hall. But I've witnessed on more than one occasion where Bruno has actually stopped courtroom proceedings and sent a runner with a piece of paper in his hand down to ask Lawless a question while court was going on, so that he could get an order from his puppet master down there, his master who tells him everything. This is insane. They gotta go. Make no mistake about it. Lawless and Bruno must resign or be impeached or be removed by Clinton County. And we're gonna make sure that happens, or they're gonna kill me first. Do I look scared? So we got all these assholes in here. Mark Cohen filed in this court order to show cause, requesting to be removed. Kristen having filed a petition under Article 8, alleging that Catherine Dupree committed a family offense involving the subject children. Katie Rock having filed on Article 6, the family court requesting custody. Now these people, Kathy Dupree, Katie Rock, Kristen's mother and Kristen's aunt, were using my daughter's identities to commit federal and New York State income tax fraud from 2007 to 2013, depending whoever Kristen could make more money with. She was using my daughter's social security numbers, dates of birth, to claim that my daughters were residents of either Kathy Dupree or Katie Rock in New York, while we were actually living together and raising our children in Pennsylvania. These are grifters. These are fucking people who take advantage of a disabled veteran's, tax-exempt status and decide that they're going to use my daughter's identities to benefit themselves. This is with the full, willingness, cooperation, leadership, conspiratorial, whatever you want to say of Kristen. This is the shit they do. They're fucking grifters. So, the court, having searched the statewide registry, orders of protection, sex officer registry, families court, child protective records, having notified the attorneys, Aurelia Maiden, all these kids. Lynn Ormsby is the paternal grandmother of the subject child, Brinley, and is the paternal step-grandmother of the subject children, Aurelia, Elizabeth, and Victoria. Dupree is the children's maternal grandmother. Katie Rock is the children's maternal great aunt. Travis Dupree is the children's maternal great uncle. Now here's the bullshit. More bullshit, right? She goes on to say extraordinary circumstances exist, and that is alleged that Kristen M. Carnahan and Richard Carnahan have been involved in domestic violence, have extensive alcohol and drug use, and have failed to adequately supervise the subject children for the foreseeable future. They are unable to provide adequate care and supervision for the subject children. And then she tries to put this half-assed statement through. Extraordinary circumstances exist in that John E. Maiden only has supervised visitation at Family Connections with the subject children, and by his own admission has not seen his children in over 3 years. Now this fucking lady, Cheryl Maxwell, she absolutely has gone way too far in this statement. She knows very well who it is that has kept me from seeing my children for those 3 years, and it has been Cheryl Maxwell and Keith Bruno, who have again and again prevented me from having any communication or any contact with my children, whether I was having cancer treatment or during the pandemic for the last 2.5 years or during anything else. I've made sure that I was in these people's faces, as you can see from that 300-page, perfected appeal and annotated brief that was created by my attorney. If anything, that document in its very nature demonstrates that this woman is full of shit and she is lying to the court in flashing lights and bold letters. Hey, I'm a fucking liar. I'm trying to use some claim of extraordinary circumstance against John Maiden when there is nothing that fucking exists. But I'm going to say it to the court, and I'm going to use it in this document because this asshole that's sitting up on the bench, Keith Bruno, is part of the fucking fix that's already been determined years ago. So we're just going to run it again. And until Maiden is able to stop us, we don't really give a fuck about what he has to say. We're going to dismiss it. We're going to deny him any contact. And we're going to claim that some half-assed custody agreement that hasn't served anybody since it was signed except to further abuse John Maiden's children and to deprive John Maiden's children of their rights and to deprive John Maiden of his parental rights. We're going to claim that this is just fucking okay. So John Maiden, I'm getting supervised visitation again, back at Family Connections, back to where I was in 2017, only this time I'm allowed to have it. You know why? Because Kathy Dupree's not fucking there anymore. Kathy Dupree isn't there interfering with my visits and whispering shit in my daughter's ears and pretending like she actually has any place in my visits. Kathy Dupree was cited and fined $500 by Lawless for custodial interference at Family Connections. But Nancy Buckpitt didn't want us back again. She saw what Kathy Dupree did and what Kristen did. So they succeeded in sabotaging my visits and further fucking up my custodial rights and not allowing my daughters to have any contact with me. In the meantime, she's fucking whispering in their ears about any other kind of thing, any kind of bullshit that she can put in their minds about their father. And, oh my God. So, listen to this though. I don't get telephone visits. That, according to Cheryl Maxwell, I only get whatever I can get at Family Connections, and that's, setting me back 5 years without the same action that I've been requesting from the court over that time that they have been unable to provide, while blaming me for that, lack of effort or something. When I've submitted petitions for therapeutic visitation, I've been back in front of them again and again, asking them to modify this stuff to protect my children from further domestic violence and from further neglect, and so that I could monitor and participate in their lives a little more closely. But these people don't care, so they just whitewash the whole thing, and on July 7th, 2022, Keith Bruno goes ahead and signs this half-assed custody order. Now let's see what he says, out of this thing tomorrow. There is a scheduling order tomorrow where the same group, the same corrupt cabal of assholes is going to meet again. And let's see what happens. But they've set me back again. Make no mistake about it. I filed for 2 adjournments when I saw that Bruno had conveniently scheduled this court date on a date that I had notified him of the next round of my medical treatments down in Albany. I have to have blood work, a couple different appointments, all leading up to surgical procedure on August 22nd. So he's denied me that. I'm not going to get a chance to, have any of the blood work done or anything that was scheduled for tomorrow or any of these other appointments. And they're going to force me into October 2022 because Bruno would not grant an adjournment for me to have follow up medical care. Possibly life saving cancer care, from what I can tell, because the name of the game here, once you're in remission, is if this thing does return, is to catch it early. Um, but that's how far these people will go to absolutely. I mean, they're trying to kill me. Let's be honest. Bruno wants me dead. Lawless wants me dead. Um, if they could figure out a way to do it, I'm sure they would have done it already. But maybe because I keep talking about it, maybe they're afraid to step forward. Although it would be really easy, just to knock me off one way or another. But you know, I mean, as I said, these people are gonna pay in court, and financially, whatever it takes to try to at least, try to reconcile this damage and this destruction that they've done to me and my family without just cause. And they know it. That's why they're reacting as they are. Um, but they're absolute cowards. They're absolute pieces of shit in my book. They they can't step up and take responsibility for their actions and admit that they have done a lot of damage to me and my family. Because if they admit this, and it's not really required that they admit this, because the Third Judicial District, Todd Monahan, my legal representative, Rob Marcioni in Albany, they said, "Look, John, this thing just has to play out now, and pray for my daughters, pray for me." This has been the most horrible 10 years of my life, and I've spent all of those 10 years fighting various battles, and I'd do it all again for my children. They underestimate the love of a father, and for somebody like me to be threatened like this by these individuals. I'll do my best. I love you.